Welcome to the 18th Century Cooking. I'm your host, John Townsend, and today we're going to be cooking these wonderful potato pancakes, inexpensive, delicious. Thanks for joining us today as we savor the flavors and the aromas of the 18th century. Potatoes were a very important part of the diet in the 18th century in Great Britain and in North America. They were an important, especially for the poorer sort of folks who didn't have those expensive foods available to them. Being wasteful, being efficient with your food was also incredibly important. They did not want to throw out their food. And beyond that, if you're eating lots and lots of potatoes, you want to mix it up. You want to have some variety in your food. So this is one of those ways you can either use leftover potatoes, or have some variety in your potatoes. Eating the same boiled potatoes over and over again, you want something different, don't you? So before we get started with the recipe, let's read it. In 1732, a man wrote a little pamphlet, and he talked about pruning fruit trees and potatoes. And he spent a lot of time talking about cooking potatoes. This is what he says. He says, the pulp of potatoes made into a paste or dough with a little milk and some salt, and then flattened into cakes and baked, is often used by some of the poorer sort of people when corn is dear, or when basically wheat flour is expensive, is what he means there. This little piece of text shows up in multiple different books. Shows up in Primitive Cookery here in 1767, almost 50 years later. So it's a very popular thing that was being used by a lot of different people. Now, they're baking these in this circumstance. We're going to be cooking these on the fire here with just a frying pan. We're just going to fry them up like you would do oat cakes and other items, especially the poor sort of people would do that instead of baking. So our first step is preparing our potatoes. I've got some pre-boiled potatoes sort of sliced up, just like we used in the episode earlier this year. And we're just gonna mash these up. So we're mashing these up into a sort of doughy consistency. Now, these have cooled, they're not warm or anything. They're like your leftover potatoes. So they're gonna be a little thick. And that's why we have our other ingredients here. But we're just going to mash these so that they have a nice smooth consistency. Once we've got our potatoes into the right consistency, we can add a little bit of salt. And that's what we're going to do here. And then we add enough milk that we get into that sort of mashed potato consistency that we are expecting, something that we can form our little pancakes up into. And yes, it's basically, when we get done here, we just have mashed potatoes, right? Here they are. They might not be beautiful, but they smell amazing, cooking them right here on the fire. Of course, we get this wonderful wood smoke smell, but the potato cakes are smelling wonderful. We're gonna try these guys out. I sprinkled a little bit of salt and pepper, mostly pepper, up on top of those to give them just a little bit more. We could make a sauce with these. A butter sauce to go on top, if we had that. Tremendous. Oh, yeah. Like a wonderful hash brown, except not chopped up into little pieces. Potato cakes are so good. An amazing 18th century way to be so efficient with your leftovers, or to give you variety in your diet when you only have potatoes to eat and you want to do something different with them. These turned out wonderful right out of the 18th century cookbooks. Love it. Hope you get a chance to try these out. So delicious, so inexpensive. If you're interested in another recipe that's a lot like this one, make sure to check out this oat cake recipe. They're great too.